Hello and welcome to Data Conversations over Coffee with myself, Craig Stewart. We've come off the back of our first ever virtual event, DataCon Africa Live, that happened on Tuesday and Wednesday this week with over 1,000 attendees and registrations across the event, loads of conversation. And there's a lot of things that came out of that. And I actually wanted to dig into some of it with someone who's become a good friend of ours here at Corinium and our events, Paul Morley, who's the executive for Nedbank Group Data Services. Paul, good to have you on the show.
Morning, Greg. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to have coffee with you.
Yeah.
And yes, I must reflect. I think you guys had a marvelous DataCon this year, virtual.
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, you were at the last physical event that we did, the DataCon physical in March. It's amazing to think how much has changed in the last couple of months since that event in Cape Town.
Yeah, just in reflection. Yeah, since we last met, to point Cape Town, and now, and the next convention, I think we wouldn't. I don't think we would have guessed we would be in this position when we saw each other last in Cape Town, Craig. So yeah, it's quite surprising how quickly everything changes and moves.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to keep agile and adapt. So the interesting thing is, before that event, you and I had a recorded conversation like this, which is effectively the genesis of Data Conversations over Coffee. It didn't even have a name yet. It was just, I think, DataCon TV.
Yes, that's right.
It's kind of come full circle. It's progressed a lot since then. I think this is the 32nd episode that I've done since then. So it's great to have you back.
Thank you for having coffee with me, and thank you for letting me participate in your conversations. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. It's always good to chat to you, Paul. All right, so I think maybe if we can just have a little bit of an intro, because this is actually going to be going global now that Data Conversations over Coffee is actually part of our new content hub called Business of Data, which is a new initiative that we've put together here at Corinium, and it's really going to push a lot of really valuable content, be it reports, videos, podcasts, etc., to our global data analytics community. So perhaps, in that effect, give yourself a brief introduction.
Yes. So yeah, I look after at Nedbank, one of the top 4 banks in South Africa. I look after the enterprise data ecosphere. I'm also responsible for all the regulatory reporting to our various regulators, be it the Taxman or the Reserve Bank and others. And I also provide advanced analytical capability internally to the rest of the organization, be it platform, be it solutioning, be it design development. I look after the data engineering job family for the bank. So I look after the platforms, after the integration. So yeah, pretty much that whole data life cycle, cradle to grave, ecosphere, it sort of sits in my world in some form, whatever, and that includes the governance constructs, the designs, the COEs, the direction, the strategies, and all the compliance stuff that goes around that. So yeah, a little bit of a big portfolio, very diverse, very interesting, very challenging, and it's an exciting place to be. I mean, I must be honest. It is a young man's game. I'm getting on with my age, so yeah, you do get tired, you do get put under the whip, and you do have those days where the energy just isn't there anymore. And I'm feeling that more and more as the older I get. But I still enjoy what I do.
Yeah, it shines through. I mean, it's so obvious to see that you're really passionate about this, and I can't imagine managing such a huge portfolio and still having the energy and passion.
Well, I think that's a misnomer. If anybody thinks they can manage that, is like, I just guide chaos loosely. I think that's the best description. Managing it, well, data is fluid. Data is dynamic. I don't believe you can ever manage it. That's why every day is different. The best I can do is prepare for the unknown, and when it changes direction, go with the flow. I don't know if that's management. I feel like I'm on a back of a raging bull, holding on for dear life. But that's as close as an analogy I can give you.
Yeah. No, I felt like that over the last couple of months as well. I mean, I'd spent 15 years running, very, let's not say garden variety conferences, but it was very much, 2 days at a venue. And we, not to say that we had become sort of used to it. It was always dynamic and changing all the time.
Yeah.
But the past few months, getting into this virtual world has kind of been like that, riding a raging bull and just trying to hang on, as you say. But I think we
hang on, and hopefully you land up in a place where everybody's still smiling, but all you do is hang on for dear life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fun, and that's the main thing. I'm having fun with it.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, so I think that's quite a good sort of segue into what I wanted to chat to you about this morning. Is really something around the future of leadership. And I know that you're really delivering large scale business transformation from a data perspective at the bank. So maybe, that is a big thing to drive. It's a massive organization. Where do you start with something like that? Everyone talks about transformation, and it seems to be transforming in so many different ways. How do you make this sort of centered around or driven by data?
Wow. How do I explain that? I think when you drive any large transformation, and all transformational initiatives, be it data or otherwise, are very much an unknown, and I'm saying that from a perspective of the pretense of any transformation program is to go from what you know to a place where you want to be, and generally the place that you want to be is generally it's more unknown. It's an ambition. It's a goal. So every transformation project is vastly different because it's not something you can map out, and most transformation sort of projects or initiatives are very unique to the context of your organization, the context of your business. So it's very difficult to find the similarities between the two. And again, your transformation is taking you to a place, and that place is yet unknown, is an unknown entity in most cases, because you're changing. You don't know how it's going to look. You don't know if it's going to be successful. You don't know if it's going to add business value. There's a lot of unknowns in a transformational based program. So I've also battled. I've done. I think in my lifetime I must have done maybe 2 or 3 transformational programs. In the truest of senses of the transformation, physically changing something to something else. And one of the things I find around transformation programs, and it's very difficult. No one likes change. So I love change. I'm a very agile mind. I seek the unknown. I like the unknown. I can work in the concept of ambiguity. So I like that stuff. That challenges me. Don't give me a day job where I'm doing the same thing every day. Like I'll die. But so I like change. But with saying that, the majority of people don't like change. Okay, and that's a high percentage. That's like your 80%, 90% of your organization. The typical people that you have, without being putting them in a box or stereotyping, most people don't like change. So when you're doing large transformational initiatives, the most important thing to do in any transformation project, you need a discussion. You need discussions with the people in the organization. You need to have lots of discussions. You need to assure them. You need to show them that you're in it to win it. You need to show them that you're going to be there for the entire journey of the transformation project. You must show them your commitment, because a lot of people psychologically say, like leadership, when they talk about a transformation project, like, today we're going to mandate a transformation. We're going from here to there, and then off the leaders go to wherever they go. The leaders in the organization, they go and do whatever they do, and they leave the people to transform with some other leaders to help them along the way. And a lot of people don't see the leadership at the highest level really participating or involved in or sharing the risk and sharing the anxiety that comes with transformation. Now, I'm not saying this is, we've done I believe a reasonably good job within the Nedbank context in our transformation projects, and we have support from the highest level, from the board all the way down. In fact, our chairman and the CEO, the CIO, all fully behind us, and they're all savvy, and they learn themselves, and they can speak the lingo, and they can speak the transformation, so they really get into the trenches, and that's inspiring to see the leadership with the people in the front line. That's great. But there are a lot of transformation programs that don't do that. So one of the biggest challenges I see in transformation is communication, awareness to the staff, awareness to your context, showing the organization that you're on the journey with them. They are not alone in this unknown thing. People are scared of change. And especially now, if you look at the whole COVID-19 and there's potential job losses and the economy is down, people have a massive fear. And like in any transformation, a good leader needs to acknowledge the fear, rightly or wrongly. I mean, we can't say, oh, don't be scared, don't worry, it'll be safe. That's not going to remove the fear. So transformational programs, the only advice and my sort of wisdom in there is the leadership needs to participate in the transformation. Leadership needs to assure the people. And it's all about the people here. It's not about the tech. It's not about the platforms. It's not about the product. It's not about any of that stuff. Transformation programs are all about the people, changing the culture, generating enthusiasm and passion. Once you have that in an organization, once you have the enthusiasm, the passion, the motivation in the staff, then your transformation program or your transformation initiative will be successful. And it's never about the technology. It's never about the platform or the product. It's about the people. So, the people dimension is a must. I mean, and that old adage, when they talk about people, process, and technology, there's a reason why it's that order: people, process, and technology. It's not. We don't start from the other end. You start with the people. Then you look at the process and you collaborate. And only once you've done all of that, do you look at how you're going to transform your product, which is generally the technology and the things associated with that. So start at the beginning. We all know it, but we never practice it. People first.
Yeah. You sort of at the beginning of that talked about, the end goal or the end state is a bit of an unknown. And I get that, things over time, it's not something that happens in a day, over
yes.
6, 12 month, 18-month period of transformation. Things will change and you have to change course slightly. I mean, absolutely. I think that you certainly don't lack that passion and being able to transfer that passion to your team. But how do you keep them sort of focused, engaged, and on track when that end goal is kind of shifting and it's not really a defined thing? You don't really know when you've got there.
So, I'm going to do a little bit of a neuroscience sort of thing. When we grow up and we mature and we're going through life, the neural pathways of the brain, the psychology of the human being, the neural pathways form connections with each other in the billions of neurons and synapses. They form connections, and a human brain is like a computer, and you can reprogram it. So synapses make connections, and your brain makes connections, and your brain does all of those things, all based on the information you feed it. So like, artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, you teach the model based on the data set that you give it. So how do you keep your people focused? Well, the same analogy applies. You feed your people information. You keep them appraised. You show them the direction. You show them the way. You remind them of the North Star. You remind them of where you want to go. You remind them of the utopia. You remind them of the things and that are going to make the organization better. And how do you keep your people on track? You feed it information. You make sure that you communicate regularly. You make sure you collaborate. You make sure you hear them, and you make sure that you consider their inputs. And I'm not saying for 1 minute you need to take everything and deal with all the problems, but you've got to make the people in your team comfortable that in this world of change and ambiguity, you're with them and you understand. And the only way that happens is if you talk and communicate. And that's very much like training a deep learning model. If you want a very good output, you make sure the data that you put into the model is of sound quality and sound, span. And then you'll get a good data model. People behave just because of the human mind works like that. You feed it data sets, it'll change its synaptic pathways, it'll formulate connections, and using the same analogy. So if you want your people to back you, it's all about the information you feed them. Be there all the time for them. Communicate regularly. People first mentality. Talk to them as if they were human beings, not a number. You don't give directives. And the last thing you should ever do in a transformation program is force a directive or a decision, because then it's going to fail. People, the collective, the social the social collective of organization will reject that. So it's vitally important, and I keep coming back to the fact, in a world of ambiguity, make sure you communicate and you provide them the data and you provide them information and you care about it. Then you can change it. Then the objective it doesn't matter where the objective lands up. The objective can change daily. As long as your people believe in you, believe in what you're doing, you can change the objective as many times as you like. But you'll have a well-adjusted team that supports you, and they'll work towards whatever the goal is. And it can change often, but it's all about the communication and the connection to your team. I see it all the time. I'm very connected to my team, and my team will go to the end of the world, and we can change it all day, but they'll be there. They'll be there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all of that around the communication, getting people to buy in, participate, etc. But don't people like to see a finish line? Don't they like to get an end product and have that achievement? So
yes,
people and kind of get to that point where they say, guys, we've done it. How do you keep people motivated when you're almost swimming in an infinite pool?
So another analogy. So we've got this big debate around waterfall projects and agile. Waterfall projects work on a perfect outcome or a perfect product, and they'll do all these good things up until they get to the end where they reach an acceptable level of whatever the perfection is. Waterfall. Agile, you break it down. And I for one, not necessarily in a big bang celebration at the end of the road. I like to celebrate incremental successes, often weekly, bi-weekly. So that whole thing is show them the product on a monthly or weekly basis and saying, these are our objectives. And if you plan your objectives and you inculcate your objectives correctly, technically you don't have to wait for the big bang picture at the end of a 2-year transformation project. You can celebrate success weekly or daily. And that's the other dimension of leadership. If you want, it's all about building a transformation process that can show incremental business value, that can show incremental success. And if you want to keep your teams motivated in the direction going, you've got to build in that dimension where you have the ability or you have the possibility of sharing success and being excited about what you've done based on very clear objectives that are not necessarily, let's change the entire bank from a bank to a search engine like a Google or a web. You can't wait for 5 years to celebrate. And how you approach the transformation. And again, I think you hit the key on the head here. In a transformation, it is even more important that you break the journey down into small bite-sized chunks and you celebrate them as you achieve them. But if you wait for the long distance goal, you could be 5 years before you even celebrate. And meanwhile, the guys have been in the trenches for 4.5 years and it's muddy. And only in 5 years you see light. Celebrate success all the time. Make sure, and again, it's not just about the success from a people's perspective. It's also about showing incremental achievement to business, your business, your stakeholders. So instead of waiting 5 years for a component to be usable, make sure you can deliver incremental successes so you can evolve into your organization. And again, transformational projects are evolutionary in nature. They are not revolutionary. They're not revolutionary. So if anybody's going to do that sort of context around, big bang approach to transformation, you're going to fail, because all transformational programs are incremental and evolutionary in nature. They're not big chunky things like launching a new product where you have to go through the whole thing right at the end. Transformation is a very subtle and a very different animal, and it's evolutionary. It's not revolutionary.
I can see from
not sure that sort of puts you in the context.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think I see what you're saying. From what you're saying is that transformation is a scary thing because it's so large, it's so long running, and there's never
impactful. Very impactful.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you then structure a team to deliver that transformation? Because obviously you have a starting structure, but over time the structure may change. How do you sort of manage that and kind of get the right players in the right positions over the course of the transformation?
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, there's many dimensions to leadership, and in large transformational sort of initiatives, you need a mix of different types of leaders. You need your risk takers. You need your creative people. You need your people, your passionate, empathetic types. You need your hard drivers. It's a mix of leadership. But generally, in a transformation program, I like to, if I want to surround myself, and again, there are many ways of doing this. But first of all, I'd like to surround myself with people of the same passion, people that enjoy change, people who can think laterally and out of the box. And even today with my own teams, I drive the lateral thinking daily for years. Some people have been working for me for 10 years, and they can tell you, I drive that lateral thinking conversation every single week with them. So that's the type of leaders that you need. You need people that can think on their feet, that can think laterally, because of a transformation project, like you say, is very dangerous, unknown, and it can change quickly. So you need people who can manage that level of change. And so, if you ask me, in a sense, you must find leadership that can adapt quickly. Okay, so that's for me, that's a foundation. All the other dimensions come into play, but he must be able to adapt quickly to a changing environment and be comfortable with that. So you try and surround your people with that type of thinkers, or that type of leaders as a start. And again, you populate all the other dimensions or other types of or stereotypes of leaders, because you need a cross section of all these different types of leaders. But your core leadership team must be a type of leader that's comfortable with change, that's dynamic, and that can be very fluid and confident. So yeah, if you surround, that's the core sort of thing I would focus on a leadership. But get the leadership team that can do that, because by having one or two people in a massive transformation program, like we do, you can't have one or two thinkers like that. You need a lot of people that can think about it at the top, because that's where the gravity starts. The gravity for leadership starts at the top. And if you've got a good solid foundation of that type of leader, then I think you've got a good chance of being successful, because that will pin me down. Most people, if you understand human behavior, they try and emulate the leaders. So use that to your benefit. So if you've got a strong core leadership team, everybody below that is going to try and emulate you. They're going to try and be like you. And I see it every day. My team tries to be like me. They're not very successful, but it's just in human nature. It's a behavioral thing. It's hard to explain, but people will always try and emulate the leaders.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where leaders can struggle as well. Is that they're not used to the pressure of people trying to emulate what they do, and it's really like kind of pushing back and saying, you don't have to be like me. Be good at what you do, and that's why you're on the team.
Yes, 100%. And I think that's the problem. Leaders don't acknowledge that. It doesn't matter if just be good at what you want to do. As much as leaders can deny the fact or disagree with the fact, the collective society of an organization that forms that is below a leadership structure will always try and emulate the leader. This is why successful creative companies, the Googles, the Ubers, that entire organization tries to emulate what the leader is. And that's how they create innovation. Do you think all of those people that work for those very forward-thinking organizations are all innovators, are all lateral thinkers? Do you think that? No, they're not. If you look at what Elon Musk said about SpaceX, he has a simple thing when he hires people. He hires the best scientists and engineers to build rockets. Honestly, do you think they're all lateral thinkers? No, they're all academics and scientists. But people will naturally follow the stereotype of the leader. So Elon Musk is not necessarily looking for innovative left lateral thinking type people. He's looking for deep technical. He wants the best rocket scientists. That's his in SpaceX. So, but look how innovative they are.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Now, would those scientists, all those people he hires that are top of the game in rocket science and all of those other sort of dimensions, do you think if those people worked for another company, that company would be the same as? No, they wouldn't. So they emulate and they look at the leader, and a lot of people want to work for him because of that, not because he's clever and got lots of money. They want to work for him because they see dimensions in him that resonates with them. And you know, when you resonate like that at a leadership level, that's in a sort of a subconscious need you have. So you want to go and work for the guy, and you want to participate with him in whatever, in an endeavor, because there's something you want. You know, remember, always these are bi-directional contracts. You know, I employ people, but they also commit to me, and they work for me because why do they work for me? Why do they want to stay here? Why do they want to work in there? So there's always a need that's being filled when people specifically want to go work for a person or work for an organization, because there's a need that person has that's over and above everything else, the money, the good jobs, but there's a reason why that person wants to go there, and it's to fulfill a need of some description or other. And you know, and leadership it's an important dimension of leadership. You need to appreciate that, because you can impact people greater than you know, if you don't accept that as a obligation, put it that way. And one needs to be cautious.
Yeah. Good. I mean, Paul, we've covered a lot of ground in this short amount of time. So maybe we can get you to do a little sort of summary, or Paul's top 3 tips for leaders who are about to embark on a fairly large, business transformation program. I know you've mentioned the people, process, technology thing, but maybe 3 nuggets of gold that people can take away from this conversation as they embark on something like this.
For me, if you look at the top 3 skills, it's always a difficult one. You must be passionate. You must have the ability to cope with ambiguity and change, and not just cope. You enjoy it. So you must be passionate. You must enjoy ambiguity and change, and you must be empathetic.
Okay. Good.
If you've got a core skill, if you've got those 3 core skills as a start, as a backbone, as a foundation, I think you're on a good wicket. You've got a good shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so summarize that. 1, be passionate. 2, be agile, cope with ambiguity. And 3, be empathetic to what your people need.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool, Paul. Before I let you go, let us know a little bit about your relationship with coffee, tea. How do you get your day started? I know you work pretty late. So what gets you going in the morning?
Put it this way. I'm not a morning person. Trust me. My wife often says to me, she's a morning. I'm not. I don't find a sense of humor until at least 10 o'clock when I've had 4 cigarettes and 5 cups of coffee. So coffee for me is a staple diet. If one doesn't drink coffee, I believe you'll die. So I drink lots of coffee. I must have at least a cup of coffee every hour. It doesn't really affect me, so I can sit there and drink 4 cups of coffee at midnight and roll over and go to sleep. So I'm sort of like immune to those caffeine habits. I'm like, I've had 5 coffees, I can't sleep. It doesn't affect me. So I drink lots of it. In fact, my team won't even talk to me until the first thing sometimes they ask me is, Paul, I'm going to meet you. Have you had your coffee? That's the first thing. They won't even have a conversation with me until, okay, go get a cup of coffee. We'll sit here and wait for you to go. So coffee, I'm passionate about. It's part of my life. It's more important than oxygen. Almost as important as cigarettes, by the way. And yes, I am a smoker, and I get chastised on a daily basis. But yeah, coffee is number 2. If I don't have my coffee, I'm not a pleasant person.
Okay.
Well, I'm not a morning person.
Yeah. Well, there you've seen the secret to Paul's energy and passion is the caffeine.
Lots of coffee.
Caffeine hits every hour.
All right, that's it.
Awesome stuff. Paul, thanks so much for joining us. It's always fascinating talking to you and learning from you. As a leader myself, it's always great to get these sorts of tips. And I think everybody listening and watching to this will appreciate it as well.
Hopefully I've added a little bit of value to the universe. I cannot say I'm right.
Yeah.
I don't profess to be an expert. But yeah, I've got some beliefs that if you can cope with change and ambiguity, and you're a passionate, happy person, you can achieve just about anything. And that applies to climbing Mount Everest, to winning a gold medal in the Olympics. If your mind is happy and passionate, and you can cope with change, you're on a good wicket to be successful in anything you do.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. If that doesn't motivate you for the rest of the day, then I don't know what will. Paul, thanks so much for your passion. We'll chat soon.
Craig, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for the coffee.